No, not like that. You're doing it all wrong!
Did that intro have anything to do with Zelda? No. Alright. So before I get to any of your questions, I need to talk about the thing that I got the most emails about that I've probably ever gotten about, well, anything. That is the connection between Skyloft and Hyrule. So let's talk about that real quick. We've pretty much determined by now that Skyloft and Hyrule are going to, at some point, come together. Probably at the end of the game. I think there is no other game I can compare Skyward Sword to right now than Tales of Symphonia. In fact, I think Skyward Sword is going to be so much like Tales of Symphonia, I'm just gonna call this game Tales of Zelda. So for the rest of the mailbag, I'm just going to call it Tales of Zelda. If you're unfamiliar with Tales of Symphonia, game, 2 worlds, split apart, learn backstory, combine worlds at the end. My guess for Skyloft and Hyrule, Link in Skyloft doesn't know about Hyrule, figures out about Hyrule, goes to Hyrule, learns why their Hyrule and Skyloft are separate, and then kablam, at the end, they come back together. And that is how the entire game will go. I think I just answered like 90% of everybody's questions right there. Alright, so now let's get to the first question. Gorkoron Sumo asks, what sort of enemies do you expect to see in Skyloft? Well, that's really dependent on, what kind of dungeons you're looking at, and I know we had that entire discussion about what kinds of dungeons and themes we'll see in Skyward Sword. I'm sorry, Tales of Zelda. I think we're going to see a lot of creative new enemies, especially in Skyloft. Hyrule may just have Hyrule enemies that we already know. But Skyloft is probably going to have those crazy troll things where you, like, slash the shield. And probably a bunch of other enemies that correlate with dungeon themes. My guess is the fire dungeon is in Hyrule, whereas maybe a more creative dungeon that, where Link is walking on that tightrope is not in Hyrule, but in Skyloft, and falling off the tightrope would mean certain death, because you'd go right down to Hyrule and die. That would be bad for Link, because he's not invincible. More specifically, what kind of enemies do I expect to see in Skyloft? I mean, I could make some up, but it wouldn't really do anything for you. It would just be like my own Zelda fan fiction. More giant eyeball monsters. Monsters made of medallions. Pieces of monsters made of medallions. Medallions made of pieces of monsters. A living cannon. Question 2. Kung Fu Sage asks, do you think there will be a transformation element in Skyward Sword? So some backstory to that. So pretty much every Zelda game that's been released since Ocarina of Time, excluding the Wind Waker, has contained some kind of odd transformational element where Link becomes something that is not normal Link. Ocarina of Time, you transformed from young Link to adult Link. Majora's Mask, you could put on different masks and become different races. The Four Swords series, I suppose, kind of came after that, and that was one Link transformed into 4 equal Links. Then the Minish Cap came out, and it was regular size Link transforming into tiny size Link. And then you had, obviously, Twilight Princess, where you transformed into Wolf Link. Do I think there's going to be any kind of transformation in Tales of Zelda? No, not with Link. This is why. So we've actually already kind of seen the transformational element in Skyward Sword. It's in the Skyward Sword, where, the Skyward Sword transforms into this spirit of a young girl. And there may actually be a second transformational element in Debbie that, Debbie transforms into the Gilded Sword. The Gilded Sword, of course, being from Majora's Mask, which is actually something I might end up talking about soon. So is Link going to transform? Maybe not. Link may just stay, the same adult Link throughout the entire game. But the swords and the sword spirits transform back and forth and may have something to do with a lot of what goes on during the game. So I suppose there is technically a transformational element, but not in the way that you may think there is. Then again, Link's partners have transformed before. Midna became an imp in Twilight Princess, not necessarily by choice, but still, that was kind of transformation. Eslo became a hat, which is, I suppose, a humongous spoiler. You all hate me, don't you? I'm so sorry. It seems to be either Link's partner transforms, Link transforms, or both. My educated guess is that this time it's going to be just Link's partner that transforms. Question 3. Ganondorf asks, what is the likelihood that Skyloft, instead of crashing down and becoming a part of Hyrule, crashes down and becomes Termina? Whoa, it's like I just kind of alluded that I'd be talking about Majora's Mask a couple seconds ago. And I did. So could it become Termina? Could this whole Skyloft bit not actually mean anything for Hyrule, and mean everything for Majora's Mask? Yes. Where is that evidence coming from? There's been a lot of talk about Debbie being the spiritual incarnation of the Gilded Sword, a sword that's only in Majora's Mask. In addition, in the latest trailer that was unveiled at the GDC, we saw Skull Kid. People have been pointing this out everywhere. We see Skull Kid, and not just any Skull Kid, like a random Skull Kid from the Lost Woods. Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask. This is an unmistakable silhouette, and Link is firing the beetle at it. That brings up a lot of questions about how Skyward Sword relates to Majora's Mask. It's kind of conceivable that Skyward Sword does relate to Majora's Mask, because Nintendo's kind of been backtracking and, developing Ocarina of Time for 3DS, so they've been remaking Ocarina of Time. They may want to spiritually revisit Majora's Mask while visiting Ocarina of Time through Skyward Sword. This could be Majora's Mask's spiritual sequel. Let's talk the likelihood of it actually becoming Termina. Would it become Termina? I don't think so. Perhaps parts of it become Termina. The weird thing is they never really explained where Termina came from. Hyrule's got its decent explanation. Hyrule was made by the three goddesses. They came down, they did their thing, then they left. They left the Triforce. Termina was only there for one game and didn't get a huge explanation as to why it exists, or where it is in relation to Hyrule, whether or not it's even the same dimension. We don't really know anything about Termina, so this could either be everything or nothing about Termina. It'll just be really interesting to see how the inclusion of Skull Kid and what Debbie is plays out in the actual plot of the game. Question number 4 is from Super Pie for the win. And Super Pie asks, in Ocarina of Time, there were items that could only be used as a child or as an adult. Some people have been worried that there are only a few items available from the Skyward Sword trailers. Do you think there might be items that can only be used in Skyloft that are ineffective in Hyrule? Or vice versa, and that there may be a separate screen just for these items? Your question got me thinking a lot about differences between Hyrule and Skyloft. The ones that are probably guaranteed, like, say, an air pressure difference. What if Nintendo used this kind of air pressure difference to the advantage of an item? Link could have a balloon that you fill up in Hyrule with air that's far more compressed than it would be up in Skyloft. So you fill up this balloon, you go up to Skyloft, and suddenly you can fly with that balloon. That's some really creative and kind of scientific twist that Nintendo could take and make items not only just useful in only one world, but only effective by utilizing the differences between both worlds. And so, it comes time for the final question.
Okamaterasu asks this.
How does Link never need sleep, food, water, the bathroom, or other human needs? My dear Okamaterasu. So young and naive you are. Heroes don't need to use the bathroom ever. This is like Hero Logic 101. 101. The reason is because the gods magically removed his bladder, his stomach, and most of his vital internal organs. Link can't die. They replaced his brain with a reset button. So if he dies, you just push the button in his brain. At least I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Wow, that was a mailbag. Thanks for watching the whole thing, because if you didn't get to hear. Really, you definitely didn't if you weren't watching the whole thing. Make sure to send in your questions. We're switching it up now. We're gonna make questions be submitted through YouTube comments. So if you want to ask a question, leave a question in a comment. And you can leave comments about other things too. If they're not questions, then they won't be taken as them. Make sure to check out all the other questions that I answered that didn't get to fit in the mailbag in text form below. Subscribe to Zelda Universe TV if you like this video and want to see even more awesome Zelda stuff, like the new Zelda vlog series that we're going to be doing some certain amount of times per week, where I walk around and talk about nonsense in Zelda for 5 minutes at a time. How cool is that? And I will see you next week, my darling YouTubers. Don't go changing. No, don't. No, you don't. Jump,